Well, joining me now is Gordon MacIntyre-Kemp from the pro-independence organisation Business for Scotland. Gordon, independence would be bad for business. That's what the CBI says. Are they right?
They would say that, wouldn't they? And as you pointed out in the package there, that they campaigned against devolution. They thought devolution would mean that all the big companies would leave Scotland. They thought it would be bad for business, and they're now here admitting that it's actually been good for business.
Yes, devolution and independence, very different prospects, obviously.
Well, actually steps along the same road towards self-governance for Scotland. Well, I think what we've actually seen and what the CBI have admitted in that interview there tonight is that devolution has been good. So with some powers, Scotland has been able to make a difference. The Scottish Government's been able to make a difference. Well, it just naturally follows that with more powers, we could actually do more. And there are several actual examples, air passenger duty being one in particular, that the Labour Party has just announced their devolution plans, and air passenger duty isn't actually in it. But we've seen companies who are presumably...
So the Chancellor has just frozen air passenger duty on long-distance flights, hasn't he? And that's remaining within the UK.
But that doesn't make it more affordable to have more international flights to Scottish airports. It just actually freezes it at a disadvantaged point. Michael O'Leary from Ryanair has done some calculations on this and said that if Scotland were to actually get rid of air passenger duty, it would increase the overnight stays in Scotland by, it would double that over a period of 5 years. Now that would be about another £4,200 million added to the Scottish economy, 40,000 new jobs, and so these proposals are costed and would actually grow Scotland's economy.
Are they costed? The CBI saying £670 million of unfunded spending commitments. The Scottish Government's independence plans don't add up, do they?
I think it's a CBI report that doesn't add up. They've looked at one side of the equation, the cost of these policies, but not actually considered the actual benefits of these policies. And I've just mentioned there one example of how we could actually increase employment and increase the size of the economy through air passenger duty. There's many, many others. For instance, it doesn't look at the cost of the childcare provisions, for instance, which Sir Donald Mackay, the leading economist, gave evidence to the Parliament just a couple of weeks ago, and he said that increasing female participation in the workforce by 6% as a result of these policies would lead to £700 million a year more revenue.
A worthy aspiration, but...
So they are more than costly.
Yeah, but we had the GERS figures out recently. They showed us that Scotland now has a proportionally bigger deficit than the UK. Despite that, the CBI says there's no credible plan from the Scottish Government for reducing that deficit. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think the CBI are looking at this from within the London bubble, and I think the answer from London has been, from all sort of political parties, is to cut and introduce things like the bedroom tax, those sort of things. What the White Paper is about is it's actually a plan for growth. So you don't cut the deficit, you grow. Well, you cut the deficit as a percentage of your GDP by growing the economy. And a lot of these plans will actually create new jobs. Doubling the amount of exports from Scotland will create 100,000 new jobs. So already I think I've quoted about 160,000 new jobs that will be driven from the White Paper. You could also go a lot further than the White Paper. There are an awful lot of things that you could add to that. And I think it's down to business groups to actually stop saying, oh, let's complain about everything, and actually say, what can we actually encourage the Scottish Government to do?
Businesses might be concerned about, there are no guarantees, and it doesn't matter what position you're looking at this from, this is fact, there are no guarantees over EU membership or over the pound. Are you quite happy to ask you yourself as a businessman and to ask your business community to take a gamble on this?
I don't think it's a gamble. I think there's a great deal of certainty around European membership. We were just talking about, or John Cridland was mentioning Barroso saying that Scotland would have to rejoin. That's quite interesting because his comments on Scotland, already an EU member for 40 years, were completely different to what Barroso was saying to Ukraine, encouraging them to join and talking about fast-tracking their membership. And Ukraine aren't a member at the moment and don't qualify in a lot of cases. So I think I would totally want the Ukraine to be fast-tracked. But I think there's an awful lot of political toing and froing going on there. The basic situation on uncertainty around Europe is this. The UK government is the member organisation of Europe. It is the only government that can ask for clarification. The Scottish government can't. Business for Scotland has said to the UK government, ask for clarification, but they won't, because they know they'll get the answer they don't want. Yes, but it's the Scottish government that's proposing independence. The onus isn't on the UK government to find that out. Claire, hasn't the UK government actually said it's rejected the currency union to give companies clarity, it says, but it won't actually give them clarity on Europe? That's because it sees a political advantage in creating uncertainty about currency, and it sees a political advantage about creating uncertainty about Europe. These are political games that are not in the best interests of Scotland, that are being played by politicians that are paid to act in the best interests of Scotland. And I think that more and more people are actually seeing that, and that is why the polls are moving towards yes, and the business community is moving towards yes, because when we get the powers to drive our economy forward, people are beginning to realise that independence is the business opportunity of a lifetime.
Well, you're clearly convinced. Thank you for joining us, Gordon.